They took 11 years of my life while I was lying in a hospital bed. I didn't hear the chainsaws. I didn't see the roots ripped out of the ground. My own daughter had to send me a photo of the empty dirt where my rose garden used to be. And what happened after that photo landed in my inbox is the reason the HOA in my neighborhood will never look at a rose bush the same way again. My name is Diane, and I'm 62 years old. I live in a quiet cul-de-sac in a community called Brookstone Estates, the kind of place with matching mailboxes and a homeowners association that thinks it runs a small country.
They are so
11
pretty.
years ago, right after my husband
they
passed,
smell
I
wonderful
planted my
too.
first rose bush in the side yard. It was a way to keep my hands busy when my heart didn't know what else to do. One bush became three. Three became a whole arched trellis of heritage roses, the kind you can't just buy at a garden center. I traded cuttings with collectors across the state for some of those varieties. That garden became my whole identity on that street. Neighbors would stop their cars just to take pictures. Kids would ask if they could smell the yellow ones. For 11 years, nobody said a word against it. Then a new HOA president moved in 2 doors down. Her name was Karen Voss, and from the very first community meeting, she made it clear she had opinions about my roses. "It's a liability," she said at that first meeting, loud enough for the whole room to hear. "Overgrown, unkempt, drags down property values." I tried to explain the trellis was inspected and permitted years ago. She smiled that tight little smile and said the board would review the matter. I should have known right then that review meant something else entirely. 3 weeks later, I needed emergency surgery. Nothing dramatic in the story I'm telling you now, just a scheduled procedure that turned into an unexpected 5-day hospital stay. I called my daughter Emma, who lives 20 minutes away, and asked her to check on the house while I recovered. I never imagined what she'd find. On day 3, my phone buzzed with a text from Emma, just a photo. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. It was my rose garden, or what used to be my rose garden, torn stumps, bare dirt. The trellis, the one my husband helped me build with his own hands, lying broken on the ground like garbage. "Mom," her text said, "there's a landscaping crew here. They said the HOA sent them. I'm getting this on video right now." My hands were shaking so hard the phone almost slipped off the hospital bed tray. 11 years gone in an afternoon while I couldn't even stand up to stop it. Emma didn't just cry about it. She's not built that way. She walked right up to the crew foreman with her phone recording and asked for a name, a work order, anything official. He handed her a laminated card with the HOA's logo and said, "Talk to the office, we're just following instructions." That was the first crack in their story because instructions from an HOA still have to follow the law. 2 days later, back at home, I stood in my own side yard and I couldn't even recognize it. The smell was gone. The color was gone. 11 years of Saturday mornings with my hands in the dirt, gone in a single afternoon while I was under anesthesia. I sat down right there on the cold ground and I cried in a way I hadn't cried since my husband's funeral. But Karen Voss wasn't done. 3 days after I got home, an HOA letter arrived. Not an apology, a notice. It said the unauthorized overgrowth had been remediated for community safety and that I should be grateful they hadn't billed me for the removal. Grateful. I actually laughed out loud reading that word because it was the only thing keeping me from screaming. Then came the second letter. A fine, $200 for failure to maintain landscaping standards, the same landscaping they had just torn out themselves. I called the HOA office and got Karen Voss on the phone directly. She told me almost cheerfully, "The board has full discretion over common area aesthetics. You signed the covenant when you moved in." What she didn't know was that Emma had already been reading that covenant line by line for 3 straight nights. Emma found something buried on page 41 of our HOA's own governing documents. Any modification to established, permitted landscaping on private property required a written 30-day notice period, delivered directly to the homeowner, with a chance to appeal before any crew could touch a single leaf. No notice had ever come to me. Not one letter, not one phone call, nothing before that chainsaw started. Emma printed every page. She photographed the destroyed trellis from 6 different angles. She pulled the timestamp off her original video showing the crew already mid-removal when she arrived. And then she did something Karen Voss never saw coming. She called a real estate attorney who specialized in exactly one thing, HOA overreach cases, the kind of lawyer these boards genuinely fear. His name was Mr. Reyes, and on our very first call he said something I'll never forget. HOAs love to use the word discretion, he told us, but discretion has legal limits. If your governing documents promise written notice and an appeal window, skipping that isn't a policy decision. It's a breach of contract, and in this state, it can also count as trespass and property damage. For the first time since that hospital photo, I actually felt my shoulders drop an inch. Mr. Reyes sent a demand letter within the week. It laid out the missing notice, the video timestamp, the photographs, and something Karen Voss really didn't expect: a public records request for every board meeting minute where my garden had been discussed. Turns out she'd been pushing to have it removed for months, quietly, without ever putting it on a proper agenda vote. That's not just careless. That's the kind of thing that gets HOA board members personally named in a lawsuit. The HOA's insurance carrier got involved almost immediately once they saw the word trespass and property damage in the same paragraph. Their own lawyer called Mr. Reyes within 72 hours, wanting to resolve this quickly and quietly. Suddenly, Karen Voss's confident little smile from that first meeting felt very far away. We sat down for a mediation session at the HOA clubhouse 3 weeks later. I brought photos of my garden in full bloom. Emma brought the video. Mr. Reyes brought the covenant, highlighted in bright yellow right where it said written notice required. Karen Voss brought excuses, and none of them held up in that room. In the end, the HOA board agreed in writing to cover the full cost of restoration. Not a token gesture, full restoration. They had to source the exact heritage rose varieties I'd spent 11 years collecting, hire a professional restoration landscaper, rebuild the trellis to its original design, and cover every dollar. When the final invoice came through, it totaled just over $6,000, and every cent came from the HOA, not from me. The day the new roses went into the ground, half the street came out to watch. Neighbors who'd only ever waved from their cars stood in my yard taking photos again, the way they used to. Karen Voss did not attend. I heard through the very reliable neighborhood grapevine that she resigned from the board less than a month later. I think about that hospital bed a lot. How helpless I felt looking at a photo of my own garden reduced to dirt. But I think just as much about my daughter, standing in that yard with her phone up, refusing to let it just disappear quietly. If she hadn't documented every second of it, I would have had no case at all, just a fine and a ruined garden and a grateful letter to remember it by. So if there's one thing I want you to take from my 11 years of roses, it's this. Check your own governing documents today, right now if you can, and find the notice requirements before anyone ever needs them. HOAs count on you never reading past page 1. Don't give them that advantage. And if this story made your blood boil even a little, tell me in the comments if your own HOA has ever crossed a line like this, because I have a feeling I am nowhere near the only one.